Next one, it will become clear that Palestinians care very much about culture, and everything that Israelis say about Palestinians is completely wrong. So this was written by Ashraf Afifi. It's called Let's Tweet About It. And Ashraf Afifi is writer and director. Ashraf Afifi was born in Gaza in 1986. He has taught for many years with the Theatre Days Foundation and other arts bodies in Gaza, and has directed dozens of plays for children and adults. In 2016, he created the Tahrida Arts Team, 45 young performers from around Gaza developing new drama and dance works for the stage. He was speaking in May 2024. So, let me tell you first about Tahrida. I'm a latecomer to theater. I started in my early 20s in 2009, and it was quite embarrassing then to say you work in theater. I trained for 2 years without telling my parents. Things have developed since then, and now there's a lot of respect for such work, including for women to participate. But to achieve that, we have had to navigate lots of rigid, old-fashioned thinking. Theater can be a very important and effective tool for confronting social issues around rights, gender-based violence, child abuse, and so on, especially since in Gaza there are serious constraints in the public sphere. But theater groups here often received external funding, which came with strings attached. They would develop work that was didactic, making it an obvious point and driving it home, as if you were attending a lecture and not a play. We wanted to be different. We wanted more independence to create theater that was free in its ideas and that allowed artists to work without constraints. It had to be deeper, less obvious, ironic, even satirical. We chose the name Tahrida, which means tweet, literally the sound a bird makes, because a tweet is beautiful and universally affecting, even though it comes from a tiny source. And of course, there's the new meaning of tweet as a message that can be liked and shared by people around the world beyond physical barriers. Tahrida became a multidisciplinary, multi-layered theater group comprising all kinds of performers, actors, dancers, poets, singers, that forms part of the expansion of theater in Gaza. All our plays are self-written. I direct and develop scripts, blending different aspects of the performing arts, pushing theater to speak in new languages. The last play we did in 2021 was Barzakh, Afterlife. We wanted to register our rejection of the current state of politics across Palestine. Our lives are seen as worthless and we are being sacrificed for no reason. Producing such a play, especially in Gaza, could have caused us problems, but these issues felt to us like the elephant in the room. Let's use art to open this conversation, we thought. Let's tweet about it. All the characters in the play are dead, but their souls are still hanging over their graves. They have issues to resolve before they can float off to heaven. There is a young woman who died long ago before the occupation. She is sweet and innocent, awaiting perfect love. Contrasting with her is a military man who fought with the PLO in its glory years. What he wanted more in life was World War III. He's an ideologue who died while eagerly anticipating nuclear conflict. Then there's Ali, an older woman whose life was centered on an easy calculation. If each family contributes 10 martyrs, she said, we will reach more than 1 million, enough to liberate Palestine. In her own family she counted 9, but her soul cannot rest until her family's 10th martyr fulfills their destiny. Ali's daughter also floats on stage. She died furious at her son, who left Gaza for a life of safety and opportunity in Spain, betraying his nation. The central character, Mahmoud, embodied everything that upsets us about Gaza. He died as a martyr on the border fence, reflecting another drama that took place in Gaza in 2018, known as the Great March of Return. Some people took this seriously as spontaneous expression, though many saw it as a deeply manipulative event staged in real time in which people lost their lives or their limbs for a cause that kept shifting from the right of return to opposing the blockade to claiming $100 a month. Eventually, they saw suitcases of cash arriving from the Gulf and understood that their bodies had become a way to raise funds. Thousands of young people went to the border. Spirits were high despite the shooting and the tear gas. They reached the fence and with their bare hands started to pull down the barbed wire to cross the border and reclaim the homeland. Among them was a friend of mine, Ahmed al-Udaini. I thought he appreciated his life in the way I appreciated his life. I thought he knew not to get into a situation of putting himself on the line to die so cheaply. But he was martyred that day among dozens of others. I haven't been able to shake that image of the frontline soldier who dies without knowing whether the battle was won or lost, whether his objective was achieved or whether he died in vain, whether the cause he believed in was the same cause his commanders believed in. So Mahmoud in the play is a reimagining of my dead friend. The other ghosts ask him how he died and he tells the whole story. The mobilization, the crowds running to the wire, and in his enthusiasm, he gets carried away and imagines that he and his fellow fighters actually crossed the border and liberated the land and that crowds followed them through the broken fence to return home. Inspired by such an achievement, the others can finally rest in peace. Mahmoud is a hero for all. But while they wait for a statue to be raised to him or for his name to be attached to a plaza in liberated Jerusalem, a new character enters, the martyr of today. The ghost asks how he died and he tells a simple story of occupation and poverty and hardship. The ghosts are confused. Surely the occupation is over, they say. Mahmoud told us everyone rebelled, tore down the fence, liberated the land. Then realization dawns. Occupation has not ended. Nobody has returned. We are still trapped. And the money is still flowing. The ghosts gather in fury to declare, "Stop this farce before your heart stops beating. Stop making weapons if you say you want peace. Why is a child crying? Why is a mother mourning? Why has a man been killed? Why do we allow war to steal children's identity? Stop starting wars that have no meaning but death. Remember there is a homeland to the east whose people need direction. A free people will never be silent as long as there is a cause. This is a dream of the dead to the living. This is the message of the land to the people." Barzak took more than 4 months in production, but it was extremely successful, merging drama, choreography, lighting, music, and poetry to convey the message that what's happening to us is not only unfair, but we reject it. However, the opening night could have been a disaster. It was August, with temperatures above 40 degrees, and the air conditioning in the hall broke down. The theater was like burning hell. Everybody was dripping with sweat, but not one person left. Everyone stayed in their seats. They just fanned themselves with the program. They wanted to be there. That touched me very much. And of course, the message today is the same as it was in 2021. Stop this farce before our hearts stop beating. So this proves that everybody in Gaza wants every Israeli dead, that there are no sane people there, that everybody is a radical, and that they are uncultured terrorists. These people make a play in some of the worst conditions to make a play in, and still they do it, and very successfully. They draw a huge crowd, and that crowd wants to watch the play even in really uncomfortable circumstances. So cuts through the lies that Israelis like to spread about Palestinians as some kind of crazy barbarians.